because we didn't want kids. And not like strongly didn't want kids, but we were just having fun. Like, we saw people with children not having fun, and we did not want that.
Right.
Yeah, like you go to a restaurant and you see some kid on their iPad, like just so bored, just watching on their iPad, and the other kids throwing stuff on the floor, and you're like, I would not parent like that. I would not. I don't want that.
That is a horrible live action brochure for parenthood.
Restaurants.
Yeah.
But then you are those people. Like our 4-year-old, almost 4-year-old, is on the iPad, and the baby is like, when she's done, takes her arm and just swipes across the table. So whatever's in front of her is now on the floor. Yep. Like, we are the bad example for couples who do not want children. This is us.
Hi, I'm Abby Krisner.
I'm Bill Crawford.
And welcome to the Parentcast. This is a podcast that's designed for parents of kids of all ages, people who are thinking of becoming parents, and it's a way to share information and everything that's ever made you freak out about being a parent.
And this was a long time coming. Like, we've been friends for a while, and when we talk in the hallway, we always would sort of have like these moments where we'd just be sharing our pain, and we had a bunch of shared experiences, and people would come up and even start to listen and say, well, why don't you guys do a podcast?
So there you go.
And then here we are.
It's just so much magic. But Bill's like, you're one of the few people in this building that has kids. We don't have a lot of coworkers in our business that have kids. I can only think of like a handful. So it is kind of funny how you can make friends with any parent pretty quickly because you just start exchanging war stories quickly. Right. But it's comforting to know that nearly no one has it figured out.
Right.
And that we're in this together.
That's what I'm finding more and more as we go further and further into this podcast landscape.
Which is good.
Which is great.
That's the best news I've ever heard, is that everyone else is freaking out, so that's good.
I'm learning so much. Like, I thought, okay, we're going to do a podcast, so we're going to get to share our stuff. Right. And we're going to teach each other stuff like, oh, I've been here, I can do this, what about this? I'm learning way more than I feel like I'm able to share.
Right.
So I'm benefiting from this podcast
I am
already.
Too, and I think I've selfishly used a few of our guests as like therapy, like sounding boards. Just be like, I'm going to throw this out there and see if you react to it, and kind of give me a sense of whether this is normal or not, or whether I need to go to a padded room and color.
Yeah. Right.
Tell me what to do.
No, we need help. And I think that's where this also started, is being like, just, people that have kids that are just trying to share stories, but also that have so many questions, because none of us know what we're doing.
Not at all. Which launches us actually into our first episode.
Yeah.
So one of the things that you'll learn, I'm sure, along this podcast is that I have one child who is young. So I have a toddler. Bill has two older girls. Older, but like...
Older. 23 and 17.
Not quite there.
No, 10 and 7.
And one of these very like reoccurring things that I'm working through is whether I am ready to have another child,
right,
or whether I want another child. So that's like a very, growing, moving, living, breathing conversation that I'm trying to work my way through and figure out how I feel about it. So thinking about like a topic for a podcast, we started off with saying, let's talk about siblings. Let's talk about people who do have more than one child.
Right.
And choosing Heather Abraham from KDKA as the first guest was a no-brainer, because I think what she is able to do that astounds me is that she is a working mom, but she's not like you just see her in the morning on KDKA and then
she's everywhere
the rest of the day. Right, she is everywhere.
And she's got it together.
She appears to have it together. I think what's cool about Heather is that I don't know that Heather and I actually went to middle school and high school together. And so
I didn't know that beforehand.
Yeah, I know.
That's what made it cool.
But there's never been a person who's more suited for her line of work. Like, she does it in a really organic way. She just talks, and so there's not a lot of put on. Sometimes you can, depending on a talking head, somebody can really, really be putting something on to
I always assume that news people talk in that cadence.
Yeah, all the time, right?
Like, well, having my kids is something that's been a challenge that I have been trying to meet.
More on that in 5 minutes.
Right.
So no, but what I love about Heather is that, having known her for a long time, she's never there's never been somebody more better suited for that line of work in a really fluid way that's super down to earth.
Right.
I never feel like I'm being talked down to with her. You on TV or off, and so
I did, but that's my personal issue. That's me.
But I definitely have a career crush on her.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, I know that she's a mom and she's got two, girls full of personality. And now we actually know that she is planning on having a third.
What?
I know. So congratulations there.
She's crazy.
She is crazy.
We're never going to hear from her again.
Yeah, that was it. So I'm glad we got her early because she's gone now.
Yeah,
that's fine. It was fun
while
it lasted. So I hope that you enjoy our very first episode of the Parentcast. This is our episode on siblings with KDKA's Heather Abraham. Well, it's going to be a future episode for sure.
No,
it's going to be hell
on nursing.
Oh my God, that's got to be a whole thing.
Do you know what's funny? Try pumping in a live truck with your photographer.
You know.
Yeah.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Wait, hold on, Bryce. Are you recording it?
We got to get this.
I know. We should stop talking.
So we have the generator, though. We have the generator in the live truck, so we can just plug in. And we had this conversation prior to me leaving on maternity leave. Like, hey, I hope you guys are okay, but this is my intent is to breastfeed. And so when you're at work, that's what you have to do. You're gone for 8 hours. So I would just plug the breast pump in.
Wow.
Yeah. Sometimes I would do it while we were driving to our next location. That's always fun.
You would plug it into the generator. I don't know how breast pumps work.
Yeah. I mean, because it's just like it's just like
Because I've only seen the handheld ones.
Ooh, the handheld ones are like very, very desperate situation.
Yeah. It
like
seems
you are in pain.
Like those are like those grip strengtheners
that
you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like you get very strong hands.
Right. Yeah. No, I can't use those.
Yeah. My impression with those was that I used it as a travel one, so I would bring it with like the kid book bag where you have to, have diapers ready to go at all times. But I would use it then when I was like maxed out and thought I might die soon. And it was like, okay, well, I guess I'm using this thing. But the thing is, when you put it on, you're like, there's no way this is going to work, and this is going to take an hour. And then it immediately works, and you're like, oh my God, now. Yeah. Okay, no.
See, I just use my hands kind of like I assume what they do in a mammogram. That's what I would do. Just kind of squeeze it until it's flat, and then,
That's super mom stuff.
You milk yourself.
Basically, yes.
Yeah.
I've done that in many bathrooms before. Just like old ladies walking in like, oh, honey. It's okay.
Oh, sweetheart, we've all been there before. It's like, have we?
No shame. No shame.
Like one morning we were when my daughter was in Greenfield, we were sitting there. We always have the TV on the show to make sure like we're, catching topic A. It's always, CBS. And
sure. Obviously it's KDKA.
Obviously it's KDKA. Right.
And I see our school on the news, and I'm like, but we have it muted. So I text my wife. I'm like, hey, why is our school in the news? She's like, oh, a third grader brought a gun into the school.
Great. You're like, we're moving.
Oh, okay. I think we're done. I think we're out.
Yeah.
So.
It's tough. School is tough. That's like my biggest challenge right now is figuring out where we're going to send the girls.
I feel that pain as well. Yeah, we didn't have a whole lot of options, and then it started spiraling into all of a sudden we have to move. It's versus this house that we loved so much that we were going to die.
Right,
in. Now it's like, no, you're not.
No, you're not. Now you're going to build
you're going
one.
Straight to suburbia, baby, and you're going to live there and you're going to love it. So
how was that transition moving from city living to suburbia?
I think it depends. For me, like I said, I loved it. I feel like I'm in the witness protection program in the best sense. Like I'm in my blue heaven. Every day I walk, I wave to my neighbors. Like people are lending me things. I'm lending people things.
Sugar, eggs.
I know my
rakes,
neighbors. I like my
need.
neighbors. I have my blinds open. It's amazing. I know you were worried about it. Because
I am still worried about it because we only have one child. So what I need from this neighborhood, I feel like I'm making like a laundry list of things I expect from this neighborhood. Mm-hmm. And part of that is community. I'm building the village. I want the village where if I choose not to have another child, that my kid will have plenty of kids to play with and grow up with. And that comes with more of a community style, which means you kind of can't sink into the background if you don't want to be noticed, which I got away with in the city. It's just kind of giving your neighbors a nod and being like, hey, neither one of us want to talk to each other. Hi. You know?
Right.
So I don't think that's going to be the case in this new neighborhood because it's going to be somewhat tight knit.
Yeah.
But I have to believe that all of those parents have that kind of thought as well. Like we're all coming in and we might not. It's about our kids.
It's about right, of course.
It's always about the kids.
Yeah, our next door neighbor is like that. Like, I mean, he's very nosy, but we love it. He happens to be our daughter's godfather, and we did not know him before we moved into the house.
Wow.
Like
that's supreme neighboring.
Yeah.
I mean, if the mailman comes like and leaves a package, he'll call us like, hey, the mailman was just at your house.
Do you guys pay him for this? Or?
He's just a nosy neighbor that just happens to have a big heart. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
I remember when I had
lovely.
neighbors move in next door, I like brought them a plant and got them a little Mr. Rogers neighborhood card that said like, hey, we're your next door neighbors. If you ever want to do brunch or you want to get to know the neighborhood, like we're right next door. Here's our numbers. Here's our names. And they looked at me like I was handing them like leprosy. They were like, geez, like, why are you doing this? And we never saw them. I'm like, okay, got it. City.
See, we have a really good block, and we have a lot of kids on our street. I think there are 14 children on our street.
Oh my God, that's perfect.
Oh, that's a ton.
It's a lot. Yeah.
Do you have the little kids that come to your door where they're like, Heather, can I have a cookie?
Yeah.
And you're just like, well, I hate these neighborhood kids.
I think that's my kid.
Oh,
that's the thing. I think I'm the parent of that child.
Strike first.
Yeah.
And this would be Lila?
Lila.
Yeah.
Okay, Lila is
Lila.
that. Yeah, she's always asking for cookies from other people's homes. Yeah, it's really strange.
She'll be 4 in July.
July.
And then your youngest is
Sunny
1.
and 1. Yes.
Oh my God.
How did
do you remember?
You're in the thick of it.
The thick of it. That's what it is.
How did it go that transition from 1 to 2? And I might actually temper that question by saying, did you have anxiety going into this idea of, do we want another child? Is it time? Do we know what time would be the right time?
So I think that I don't know why, because we didn't want kids. And not like strongly didn't want kids, but we were just having fun. Like we saw people with children not having fun, and we did not want that.
Right.
Yeah. Like you go to a restaurant and you see some kid on their iPad, like just so bored, just watching on their iPad, and the other kids throwing stuff on the floor, and you're like, I would not parent like that. I would not. I don't want that.
That is a horrible live action brochure for parenthood.
Restaurants.
Yeah.
But then you are those people. Like our 4-year-old, almost 4-year-old, is on the iPad, and the baby is like, when she's done, takes her arm and just swipes across the table. So whatever's in front of her is now on the floor. Yep. Like we are the bad example for couples who do not want children. This is us. Yeah.
So when did it change? When did it turn into, okay, I think we want to have kids?
I don't know. I think I was approaching 30 and thought, if I'm gonna do it, we should probably do it now. It was like the time clock. Like
it is.
Okay, it's
biological clock is ticking.
Right.
Better put these hips to use.
Funny you should say that. When I was at my OB/GYN appointment with the baby, I was pregnant with Lila, and I remember my doctor saying, "You're never gonna fit into these shorts again." And I said,
nice.
Yeah. I was like, "Oh, thank you."
How nice.
So you switched OB/GYNs?
Like immediately.
I did. But that was like one of those things. Like, what are you talking about? No, I'm always gonna fit into these shorts, and I don't anymore.
I don't either, and I think I was born with significant hips. I've always had them, and they've always been a point of contention. But I remember, like, at a way too young age, my mom saying, "You're going to be really happy you have those hips when you get pregnant." I'm like, I'm 8.
That's not nice,
oh
Mom.
My God. But you're absolutely right. I was kind of like, well, my hips were big anyway.
Yeah.
So, like, can they get bigger? Yeah.
They can.
Yeah, they can.
Surprisingly.
Yeah, they can.
I have shorts I can't fit into either.
I'm
sure.
Yeah, but I just felt like, you do the tandem jump. You're like, okay, let's wreck our bodies together.
Together, right.
I have to, I just started eating whatever she was eating.
Right.
And
that's nice.
Yeah, I thought it was the least I could do.
Taking one for the team. Real bullet you took there.
I mean, for us, with the kids, it was like the first child wasn't planned. And so
she's not listening to this, right?
No.
Okay.
No, nothing lives on the internet.
But she was, she was such an amazing child that, a couple of years later, Serena was like, I really want her to have a sibling.
Right.
Can we do that for her? And I was like, yeah, I mean, you're the boss. Like, you know, you're the supervisor. Like, do you want to do that? Then yeah.
Sure. And
That's
and your
nice.
girls are 7 and 10?
7 and 10.
That's
so we're
nice.
we have a good spectrum here.
Right.
We really
You have 7 and 10.
Yeah.
1 and we'll just say 4.
We'll just say 4.
1 and 4, and then 2 and maybe, not sure. So that does bring in a lot of questions about how kids do relate to one another in these kind of different age brackets. You're still kind of like in a similar distance of how far apart they are in age, but the fights have to be different. So what do you notice now with 1 and 4?
Well, I don't know if this still happens later on in life. I'm assuming it's some variation of it. Yes, it does.
I already know what you're going to say, but yes.
But it's just like, you know, Sunny will be playing with this pillow, like chewing on it or something. And all of a sudden, Lila wants it. She didn't want it before, but now she wants it. Sunny doesn't know how to communicate yet. So it's just a lot of like, and then Lila,
like Peter Boyle and Young Frankenstein.
And Lila, who's, well, it's mine. Well, but Sunny's, nothing is yours. It's all I paid for it. It's all, and now I sound like my parents.
Right, of course.
You know.
We were talking about that. It's almost exclusively about property.
Right.
Whose property is it? How much time do I get with the property? Are we sharing it all? No, we're not sharing.
Right.
Right.
Never sharing.
Never sharing. Well, so, and then I wonder too, like, do you put the children in the same bedroom? Because now they have to share that space. Does that teach them, like, okay, there is no separation here. You guys are in it together. Like, fight it. We'll close the door. You fight it out. Figure it out. But
make their
really
bedroom like an escape room.
Right.
Yeah. Here's a puzzle. Like, do you want to eat dinner tonight? You're going to have to work together.
I love that idea.
I actually do too, but I like the idea of almost a forced cohabitation, because you do have kids have a sense of being somewhat egocentric.
Yeah.
Because it's all they know.
Right.
They haven't developed or matured in a psychological way to really understand that the world exists outside of them. So their inventory is property.
Some people are still trying to figure that out.
Yeah, some people never shake that off.
But
my 7-year-old, real quick, my 7-year-old last night, we're on the way home from, we went and saw my nephew he had like this spring recital, and we were coming back from it, and my daughter says from the back seat, "Raise your hand if you have a crush on me." And I'm like, number one, we're family. Number two, why don't you raise your own hand, because you're feeling yourself. Like she just got a haircut, and now she's like, everybody has a quash on me.
She's like,
she has a quash.
Right.
She has a side quash.
Oh,
she has
girl,
she has backup quashes. I mean, it's like it's a lot of quashing.
At least she has confidence, right? That's how I look at it. At least she has some confidence, which is good.
But it's like moderation. Like, I want her to have confidence, but I don't want her to be like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like,
There's a fine
so
line.
full of herself.
Is there a point when, if we could go along with the assumption that saying maybe fighting is somewhat beneficial to kids, in some way, conflict resolution, not being the most important person in the room, having to share your space, that conflict has a purpose, is there a time or a line in which you say, this is now not purposeful and I'm stepping in and I'm going full mom on this one?
Okay, so this is where, like, I have to admit, like, I'm probably messing up my kids, because I really don't know, like, I don't know the right answer. You know,
Nobody does.
You're right. You see them fighting, and you think, okay, if I step in, then they're never going to learn to figure this out on their own. But then Sunny's just a year. But then should Sunny learn that she can't have everything? I mean, there's so many questions, and it's like happening in the moment, and you're really just trying to drink your coffee.
Yes.
So I don't know. What's the right answer?
I think, you know, for me, it's like I feel most like my parents when my kids fight, because it strikes such a nerve in me. And my mom used to always say, like, and I tell people this all the time, her favorite thing to say was, life as you knew it is over. Like, so, because when we would fight, it drove her insane. And I can't take it. So if I hear it, I shut everything down.
Yeah.
Like, everything stops. They're both on timeout. I don't care who the culprit was. I don't care who reacted. they're both done.
So you punish both of them.
Yes.
That's a good idea.
Is that right? I don't know.
It seems to be the path of least resistance from a parental standpoint.
Yeah.
I know, again, and this is more for you because your girls are a little bit older. If we talk about little kids, most of the fighting is about possession and what's mine and not yours, especially.
Yeah.
As the girls get older, we could probably do a whole episode on just girls, but as the girls get older, if I'm recalling my childhood at all, there's a lot of psychological warfare that goes on. And and that's part of it too. My sister used to like stage the fight, then scream and say, I did it. Like it was some stuff like where it's like, I think there's a scene in Lady and the Tramp where there's the two Siamese cat who like, they wreck the room and then they blame it on the dog.
That's twisted.
Yeah, she went Fight Club on you.
She went way Fight Club on me. And she would do things like that like, again, they were meant for pain. Like that was not meant for like you took my Little Pony. It was meant for pain. Yeah. So I don't know if that's a girl thing, a new skill set we get as women, or not. But
I think so, because my girls do that. They jag each other off in their own ways, like intentionally.
Yeah.
Like they'll start singing, and then the one will be like, stop singing that song, and then she'll just sing it louder and keep singing it.
Why do kids do that?
I don't know. It's like this thing where they just love to annoy the hell out of each other, and I don't get it. But then I'm like, you want to play this game? I'll annoy you both for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
I
can play this game.
I will ruin your day. I promise. You're not better at this than me. You know?
So at some point, I don't know if you were there yet, Abby, but at some point, like, they just stopped taking naps. Are you there yet?
She's not quite there, but boy, does she think it's a negotiation.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Everything is.
Everything's a negotiation.
So, but they get into that routine where they're out of the nap. And then, like, Lila sometimes will just fall asleep mid-afternoon. And that can throw everything off. She's almost 4, so, like, she doesn't need the nap anymore, but then she'll fall asleep. So yesterday she fell asleep on the couch, and Sunny crawled up on the couch and laid on top of her. It was the cutest thing I've ever seen. So cute. Then Lila wakes up and starts crying because she's been woken up and now there's somebody on top of her. Right. So then Sunny starts crying and I'm like, this is hell. This is like, this was such a cute I got one picture. It was adorable. Right. And now everybody's crying.
That's what goes on Instagram. Yeah. That goes on Instagram. Yeah. The fight does not. The fight goes in the story.
Right.
The picture is the post.
Right. There you go. That's it.
It's such a razor's edge that you're always sitting on because it's that beautiful moment followed by, I hate this. I want this to end. They're never going to get along. Yeah. What are we even doing as parents? Why did I sign up for this?
No, right. Exactly. Goes back to the restaurant as a 26-year-old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in public outings with the family, do you find yourself kind of torn in the sense that, let me rephrase. There's a lot of people who say things like, oh, when you have a second, you just find more love. But at times, kids have more needs than the other. Like one will have a significant need and it can go back and forth and it can change. So in those situations where it's either a public outing or having to do, just a family task, do you find yourself kind of torn with that guilt of giving them equal time?
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's just, and they both need different things, kind of like what you said. I mean, Sunny, someone told me this once, and I don't know if this is true, that the second child always eats more because it's like survival of the fittest. Like they feel like they have to, I don't know if that's true. But
they have to bulk up to fight the older one.
I don't know if it's more of like a fight, but like they don't know when they're going to get to eat next.
Yeah.
You know? I don't know if that's true or not, but Sunny does not stop eating. So she's constantly like needing something. And I don't know if that's a cry for attention or what, but I mean, if she's constant. So my attention to her is usually, what can I feed her next? Where Lila is always just like, look at me, look at me. So
what about the jealousy between the siblings? Because like for our oldest, she wants time from mommy, and you're tied up with the younger one. Right. The younger one's always clinging to her, and she can't get to her mom.
Both of them. Yeah. Well, and it's probably different for you because they're a little older, so you can't do this quite as much. But right now, I always ask Lila to be my helper. So, she,
smart.
Hey, why don't you help? Sunny really needs something to eat. What should we feed her? So then she has to answer. So now she's getting attention.
Right.
Plus, you have a laborer now.
Right.
Which is
I'm not
always
paying
great.
her either.
Right.
No.
I'm not paying her at all.
undocumented. But look, we can keep that under the table.
But so, and
Perfect.
as far as public outings go, we were at a party not too long ago, and it was just it was a get together. It was somebody that I work with, and there were probably 50 or so people there, most of them older. And we had the girls with us. We were the only couple with children. And I looked at my husband at one point, kind of like leaned in, and I said, just keep it together for 15 more minutes. Act like we got a hold of this, because we did not at all. They were running.
I need an exit strategy.
Yeah, like Lila's screaming and crying. Sonny does not want to be put down. And then they're tugging on the tent that's outside because there's balloons attached to it. So I just said, just smile. We're going to be out of here soon. We have this.
My biggest problem with kids is that you have to be, especially in the beginning, the alpha and the omega. I always tell people I'm their fun broker and also their fun extinguisher. Like I have to book the fun, and then I have to end the fun.
Yeah. You're the party planner.
And so it's just too much power for any one person to have.
It's a lot of power. Yeah.
And they just always think that they should be booked. They're like, so what do you got going for us today?
What's next, Dad?
Let's Chuck E. Cheese. What do you think? Like sandcastle?
Yeah.
I'm like, it's January. Yeah. So no sandcastle, obviously.
Lila's already like planning her play dates.
Yeah.
You know, like I think we're gonna have Lucy over today at around 3 o'clock.
Oh,
okay,
are we?
great.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Good.
Yes.
Yeah. Is she staying for dinner too? Nice.
Which, does Mom get power naps during the day? Because I think the thing with your schedule and a big impetus of having you on the show is that I know Bill and I have early morning schedules, and otherwise in life would have been night owls, but here we are.
Right.
We have early morning schedules, and I'm always just cursing first thing in the morning because I'm just like, oh my God. But then I'll turn on the TV, and you've been up for hours, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to complain, I guess.
Yeah, I get up like between 2:30 and 2:45. I never used to hit snooze until after the second child.
Yeah.
And then I started hitting snooze a little bit.
Yeah.
8 minutes does a whole lot. Why is it 8 minutes?
I don't
or
know.
9
It's
or whatever
amazing.
it is.
I'm with you, and I do
Why
the same
can't
thing in the morning. I'm like, should I put on eyebrows or should I skip it? Because that 8 minutes, man, I'm not getting it back.
Our eyebrows are overrated. I'm on the radio.
Take a minute. They are the curtains to the window to the soul, and you need to take care of them.
To the window. But it becomes a challenge. I usually hit like my high point at 7 a.m. I have all these grand plans of what I'm going to do for the rest of the day. And then I get home and the sibling fighting starts. And I'm like, maybe we should just take a walk. Like we just put him in the stroller and take a walk. Then it's not, I don't have to interact quite as much. Is that bad? That's making me a bad
my
parent,
God, I
right?
do it with one. I do it with
No.
one. She gets a little extra. We try to like limit the TV time, which is the whole other issue. But she
Just
only
give
really
it a
wants,
minute.
Yeah, she only wants to watch
the
Sesame
kid will have
Street.
the iPad.
Oh,
You'll
I
be
know.
at some restaurant.
I will say I did very well with what I think is completely unrealistic pediatric advice: no screen time for 2 years. They shouldn't be looking at screens at all.
Whoa.
We made it about a year.
That's pretty impressive. Like,
Well,
no
it
TV?
took TV away from me too, which was hard.
Well, what about Sesame Street?
So Sesame Street started a little after a year.
Wow.
I wanted to just see if it would work because I knew that they had moved to HBO and they were doing these half-hour episodes. And I was like, a half hour for mommy to cook sounds like the lesser of two evils.
Right.
And so I'd pop on Sesame Street and I just wanted to see the reaction to Elmo. It was positive.
Yes.
And then we would do that was the big celebration in the days. Do you want to watch
Elmo
now? One Elmo. And so we only watch one Elmo. Now it's pretty hard to negotiate one Elmo because she's got too many words. And it's just, Elmo now, please.
Because you've turned your
So
kid into
impressed.
an Elmo crackhead, which
she
is
kind of is, and
what
she does
all
that with
the
the
child
biggies too. And I
programming
was
is.
thinking that the other night. I'm like, I might have somebody who's got some control issues.
Yeah.
Right now. But
That
so we
happens
did
at that
avoid
age,
the
though.
screen time. I'm
so
starting to lax
impressed.
on it now because I need it. But going back to your point, that the walk is my diversion tactic. It's like,
Always.
you know what, Elmo's sleeping. Let's go for a walk.
Yeah.
And that's normally like, no. I don't want you to walk. I want you to sit.
Yeah, you were going to
I
sit.
want you to go. I just want you to look at the flowers while we walk. Like that's it.
It's a good chance for them to explore and look around,
Yeah.
right? That's I don't
Sure.
know. Whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The dangerous thing about Sesame Street being on HBO is one time I put that on for the kids, and then I fell asleep, and the next thing that was on was Snakes on a Plane.
No.
Yeah, you gotta be careful.
I think I remember that lineup, so I know you're right.
And my wife texted me like later that day, like, did you watch Snakes on a Plane with the girls? And I was like, of course I would never do that. What are you talking about? She was like, well, Kennedy just asked if there was snakes that come out of the toilet and go into your pee-pee hole.
No.
And I was like, oh my God, is that? I don't remember seeing the movie enough to know if that's even a scene.
I think we get the premise, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds terrible.
I think it sounds awful.
Yeah, not great.
No, yeah, that's the worst thing about the HBO thing. But we'll tend to do things on demand. But you're absolutely right. You have to monitor that, which leads you to the internet stuff that you have to monitor once they do have a hold of an iPad.
Are you thinking about having a second kid?
Is this what this is all about?
Yeah.
Are you really like, I wonder
to
if I can
convince
do
you?
this?
Episodes of the Parentcast dealing with many aspects of parenting, most of which are rooted in personal fear. But I thought that was a pretty steady platform for most parents because there is this like complete illusion that someone knows what they're doing or is getting it right. And to be fair, I think this is a great way of kind of exploring that, because my whole stance on a sibling for Edie is that I owe it to her. Mm-hmm. It's not really that I feel the need for myself, because I think as a working mom, I'm kind of maxed out.
Well, okay, so let me tell you that, like, so as a mom in the news, one of my biggest fears was, doing things wrong. And we run stories all the time about kids getting out of the house wandering.
Oh, yeah.
Then you realize once you have children that can actually happen pretty easily and doesn't make you a bad parent necessarily. I mean, there are levels of it, but it's just you get all of these outside influences. You have all these preconceived ideas before you have children, and then you're in it and you're like, okay, I can definitely see how that could happen.
Yeah.
I've lost my kids inside of my house. Like I was on Twitter for a second and they decided to play hide and go seek and didn't tell anyone.
That's the problem right there.
That's scary.
Yeah. Right now, Lila always has the same spot, so it's pretty easy.
Yeah.
She thinks she's tricking me every time. I'm like,
breathing really loudly. There's a lump in the curtains, and I know that's her.
Edie is still, again, not quite 2. She's a July birthday too, so she'll be 2 very soon. But her idea of hiding is she just closes her eyes wherever she is.
That's awesome.
Yes.
And I go,
don't see me.
So you learn all these really neat things. Like if they close their eyes and they can't see you, they believe,
perception, right?
that you can't see them. Yeah, right. So interesting.
It's very cute.
So we decided to have Sunny because we did not want Lila to be an only child, just because I wanted her to have a playmate. And then you start to wonder if you're actually doing the wrong thing by adding a playmate, because they don't always play. They don't always get along. And so now you're wondering, maybe if you just have one, like they get everything. They're spoiled. Yeah. They can go to a great school, great college. Or do they have a partner in crime for the rest of their lives?
I feel allergic to spoiled, though. I'm very preoccupied with her being spoiled.
Right.
And my husband even bought a book that I think it's called The Opposite of Spoiled. And I haven't really cracked it open yet, but it is trying to talk about how kids do get, some sense of, still having autonomy, but having still courtesy for other people and not thinking they're the only person in the room or the only person that matters. That is a huge drive to thinking about siblings. Because right now she's the only grandchild. I think it's been like 23 years since our family has had a baby in the family. Yeah. So there's a lot of attention on her and a lot of fawning over her that is kind of unreasonable. I want her to have
Understandable, but unreasonable.
Right. I want her to have it for that sense of community and village and deep down inside just knowing at her core that she's loved. Also, I want her to know that she ain't the only person in the room. So I'm torn because I don't want to turn into like a Joan Crawford with her just to like knock her down a couple of pegs. And so that discussion has happened, be like, well, maybe she needs a brother or sister.
I think too, it depends. Like if you have if you have 2 girls or 2 boys, there's this greater need to make sure that they have equal of everything. Like I feel like if you have a girl and a boy, like the boy can get shafted and he's like, oh well, I'm a boy, so I don't get the big huge birthday party or whatever.
Right.
Like there's just this idea that you can do things differently for each one. For girls, I feel like I'm constantly trying to make everything
even.
Before Sunny was even born, like trying to make everything even. Well, Lila had this, so we should do this for her.
It's a price match.
Yes.
An ongoing, constant
right?
price match.
Oh.
Yeah.
Even the first birthday party for Lila, we had like 50 people at our house for her first birthday. It was great. I mean, there were presents stacked to the ceiling. Lila, I think there were 10, or Sunny, there were like 10 people at our house. I mean, it was just like so different. I felt so bad. She's never going to remember it, but
we have on our on my husband's side of the family, they had their third about 4 years ago, and the difference between the kids age-wise is about 5 years each time. So it goes, 11. They're spread out enough that now at the third child, where they used to have extravagant birthday parties for the first, now they're down to like, yeah, he's 4, but he doesn't know it. So we're gonna go to Red Robin. Like that's where we're going.
Red Robin is amazing. You can drink beer and they have French fries, and the table is always sticky, and it doesn't matter.
I am so down with the steak cut fries. I have no problem with Red Robin, but I kind of like that too, because it's like they really don't.
Yeah,
they really don't know. And so when you think about, again, it's the sense of what you owe your children,
right?
And again,
the third kid, you're like, you know what? Here's footage from your brother's birthday party.
Doesn't this make you feel something? Great. Pretend it happened.
You're not having a party at all.
Yeah.
Again, it's a sense of what you owe them, and that's that really uncertain area, because I think, and it's a realistic fear. I love Edie. I think she's a lot of work. I'm learning on the job. I love her. I'd be lucky to have a second that was just like her. But that's not going to happen either, because I think you both can probably attest to that your kids, even as young as Sunny is, that you know that they're different.
Oh, yeah.
So much different. Lila, so I was preeclamptic with Lila, so my pregnancy was even different than with Sunny. She was 3 weeks early. She didn't sleep for probably a year, like through the night. I think colicky, not really sure. I mean, I don't know.
That's a mystery still to me.
It's like a mystery, like if what the diagnosis really is for colic
is we don't know why they're crying.
Right. My pediatrician described colicky as a baby that cries for longer than anyone can stand it.
Well,
and I thought that was a pretty good description.
That would be Lila. I remember. Yeah. I mean, she was probably 5 weeks old, so she was still really young. But being on the living room floor with my head on the floor, it was like the last thing that we had that moved that could rock her in our house, because we had 100 of them, and I was just like crying on the floor at 5 o'clock in the morning because she had not slept all night.
Yeah.
Sunny's born. Fine pregnancy, went exactly to my due date, had the C-section, had the baby. She slept all through the night, probably 3 days after we brought her home. I mean, just night and day difference between the children.
Do you remember Serena's pregnancies and whether they were different from one another?
Oh my God, yeah.
Oh God, that scares me, because my first
one she had 36 hours of labor.
Wow.
And they gave her an epidural, and it wore off.
Yeah.
When she was like 10 to 11 centimeters dilated.
That's a good time for it to go.
my right eye fell apart. Like it just got really like bloodshot and half closed. We had to kick my mom out of the room because she was yelling at one of the nurses. So I booted her out of the room. Like it was, all the wheels fell off the operation. Serena's brother's friend came in like, can I charge my phone in here? I was like, get out of here. I mean, it was was crazy. They brought out like this trapeze bar, and she was hanging from it. And I was like, please don't have the baby like that. Because she was just like, she was in the most awkward stance ever. And I was like, oh my God, where are we? Oh my God. They brought out a spotlight, like all this equipment I didn't even know they had in the room. And the second child she was in labor for an hour and a half. And the baby was born before any of my family got to the hospital, because they thought, oh, well,
it's going to take that long.
This is going to take,
right.
So long. And it was just, the baby came out. The whole room was quiet. Like when Kennedy came into the world, I was screaming. Serena was screaming. My mom was in the room screaming because we had let her back in.
Some stranger's charging his phone in the corner.
He was like, I have full battery. I was like,
hey, did you guys see this on Facebook?
It was, just couldn't be any different. I always try to tell people that don't even have any kids at all that going from none to one is life-changing.
Yeah.
You are creating a path through a a thicket that you can't even imagine. You don't even have any weapons or tools to cut the path.
Yeah.
And the second kid, going from 1 to 2 is just, it's harder, but there's a path.
Right. Oh,
do you feel that
that's
way?
Such a good way to put it.
Yeah. Do you
it was
feel
almost
that
kind
way?
of romantic the way you described it.
You know, I mean,
yeah.
It's just
you and Serena are the machete.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're a human
sloppy.
machete by that point.
Yeah, I think that that's true. I mean, you know, I think what's really difficult, and I am so fortunate, I think you guys are both the same way. I am so fortunate that we have a very strong, not only marriage, but friendship, me and my husband.
Yeah.
And I think it's, I mean, we obviously.
Essential.
You still fight, you still bicker, but we can divide our time. We can help each other out. We know when one is struggling, and you know Frankie needs a pick me up, or he needs to just go to the grocery store because that's better than being at home someday. You know, like it's just so key. But I think that making that path with somebody that you have such a good relationship with is essential to it, and it's probably why we decided to have another one. And honestly, having Lila first, we were like, it can't be worse than this. You know, I mean, this was.
Right.
I mean, we didn't sleep all night. I mean, we could
Yeah.
handle that. If we made it through the first year, we're good. We can do that. We can do anything. Like you feel kind of empowered. Like you can do anything now because you know,
You
helped.
survived.
You survived. The child survived a year. Like
Yeah.
you did this. It's pretty miraculous.
I think we'll wrap with this last question, and I can send it out to both of you. There's a very passed along, I don't know if you want to call it a cliche or just a quote or whatever it is, that giving your child a sibling is the best gift you can give them. True or false? Heather Abraham, we'll go to you first.
That's so hard. You know, I see so many people that have such good relationships with their siblings. And to me, that's what I wanted. I wanted that more than anything for Lila and for our second child when we decided to have Sunny. So I think, yes, if my husband and I do it right, if we help guide them to have that friendship and don't create a divide. And I don't know how you do that. I'm hoping that we're doing it right.
Yeah.
Well, you just kind of keep, because I feel the exact same way. You just kind of keep reinstilling that because it's just the repetition of just always repeating it that like things my parents told us as kids, I didn't even realize it at the time, but it sticks with you. I always say like, that's your partner. Like you guys are in it for the long haul. You got to watch out for your sister because sometimes like, they'll come home, like one of them will come out of school and like be all the way down in the parking lot before her sister gets out. And I'm like, where's Emma?
You got to wait for her.
You got to go back and get her. Like, you got to take care of her. Or, hey, if somebody's talking bad about your sister, like, you got to stand up for her.
Yeah.
You know, you got to be there for her. I think, you know, they absolutely love each other. I mean, they fight all the time. You know, they fight probably every couple of minutes.
Yeah.
But also they play with each other and like again they're partners in crime.
Yeah.
And it's awesome. And I you know, I think it's a great gift to give. And it kind of feels like you were saying, like if you just have one child, like are you self-absorbed by doing that, or are you you're always on the fence, and there's no absolute right or wrong.
Yeah.
I agree. Still remains to be seen.
It is so difficult.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I think about this like Sunny doesn't know how to kiss properly yet. So her mouth is open. It's like open mouth kisses to anybody that wants one. And so
you got to fix that.
I know. Yeah, we're working on it. So, but she kisses Lila that way, and Lila thinks it's funny. And so when I see them interacting like that, it's just so beautiful. It's exactly what you want. They're not going to be doing that when they're 16.
Right.
You know that, but it's still just to have somebody that you're that close with, I just think is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. That's it. Thanks, Fred.
Yay.
And
That's
they're
perfect.
never having children.
Yeah. If you don't have children, you're never having them. That's perfect. Hope you enjoyed our episode with Heather Abraham of KDKA. Thanks to Heather for joining us.
She's so great.
She's such a fun person. She's
we
got
love
it
you,
together.
Heather.
Wow. How does she have it together?
I don't know, but I'm jealous.
Very jealous. And again, congratulations to Heather, who is going to be having her third child.
Yeah, congrats.
Coming up here. So it didn't scare her off, which is great.
Right.
Happy to know that. I'm Abby Krisner from 105.9 The X.
I'm Bill Crawford from WDVE.
Outside of the Parentcast here, which we're happy you found and is always available on the iHeartRadio app. You can also catch me on the X mornings or at Abby on the X on Twitter. For Bill,
I'm on the DVE morning show every morning, 6 to 10, or you can follow me on Twitter at DVE Bill Crawford.
I think those are good to utilize, too, if you are enjoying the Parentcast. Obviously, we want to get feedback, not only on how great we are, but also future guests that maybe you would like to see featured or future topics that we can really hone in on, because certainly with parenting, there isn't a shortage of topics.
And if you don't like the podcast, could you not tweet at us?
Yeah, don't tag us.
I'm fragile. And I don't want to see that, because then I'm up all night spiraling. I'm looking through your pictures. I'm going back 3 or 4 years trying to find ways to hurt you. And that's not what I want.
Clearly, we've already described ourselves as frayed parents. We don't need that on top of it. Next week's episode, by the way, would be great for somebody who is thinking about having a child for the first time, or maybe getting ready to get pregnant again, because we are going to be talking with a certified doula.
A doula.
A doula oblongata.
Oh.
So we have Dina Blumenfield, and she is a certified doula from Shining Light Prenatal. So we'll be chatting with her next week, and I hope that there are dolls and instructions. And I really hope we get into the biology of the whole thing.
Sweaters,
really
and
gonna
just
be great.
breathing techniques.
Thank you, guys. We'll see you next week here on the Parentcast.